Hi, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. Hope you guys are doing well. I don't know if this is too loud. Let me turn it down a little bit. There you go. Okay, so welcome back to Spirit Lounge and our continuation with the Tipitaka, the teachings of Buddha. And we're going through the Sutta Pitaka, which is one of the Anguttara Nikaya, which is one of 5 collections. So let's go straight into this and transfer it onto the screen. Okay, this one's pretty short compared to the ones we've had before. There are another 3 to follow. So the Sutta Pitaka, it basically is all the Dhamma teachings of Buddha. It's the faith collected in the Tipitaka, which is what the text is called. It's come in 5 collections. We've gone through 3 of them already, and we're going through the Anguttara Nikaya today, and we'll be following on in the future with the final Kuddaka Nikaya as well. It means basket of teachings. In other words, it's a canon within the Buddhist philosophy. The suttas are building blocks, and also it has nipatas as well, which are also building blocks. The Anguttara Nikaya is really just a collection of texts which follow each other and build upon each other. In other words, it's step-by-step incremental of one of teachings. It's rather large in its native form, but the book that I'm looking at is a condensed version of it. Okay, so the Chakka Nipata. On Buddha's disciple Sariputta's description on how a monk may conduct his life, leading to an evil outcome full of regrets or to a good outcome without regrets. Evil outcomes occur when a monk takes pleasure in work, takes pleasure in talking, takes pleasure in sleep, takes pleasure in companionship, takes pleasure in things, and takes pleasure in worldliness. What does all that mean, effectively? What all that actually means is attachment to material things. It's the attachment to humanity. It's attachment to the bodily form. It's attachment to the ego itself. It's attachment. It's effectively not moving one's spiritual sight, one's vision, one's perception into the state of grace. When you're moving into the state of grace, these things become null and void in terms of their importance and attachment to a person. And when you're attached to these principles, you move into what's called into the broad channel in the middle, and sometimes if you completely devolved and immersed and distracted and delusioned by it, you can go into the opposite left-hand channel into further perversion, into darker states of existence. The narrow channel on the right is the one that you will only see grace before you. That is the fact. All scripture will talk about the middle channel. With the opposite being true of good outcomes. On 6 things worthy of remembering. This is during meditation. In order to eliminate greed for the 5 chord of sense pleasure. This means craving is created when things are perceived by touch, sight, sound and smell. Remember, we just talked about this in the previous section. That is attachment to materialism, to only what you see with your senses, only what you perceive with the mind, and the ignorance in which all of those provide you with. This is a choice. It's not the divine's will that you're this way. It is a personal choice. It's free will. You make these choices yourself. And if you choose to be ignorant, then you will remain that way, and your life will be formed by your perception. The Buddha's teachings teaches the Buddhist community virtues, generosity, and the gods. Well, I don't believe in the gods. The gods, what are the gods? Well, these are deities which humanity has formed and fed and feed through energy. The darker, more left-hand energies, which exist within Satanism and Luciferianism, are done through sacrifice and the most disgusting of ritual, which we won't go into. And these exist because we manifestly create them. They've been here since the dawn of the age of existence, and they'll exist as long as they're fed by those who worship them. These gods are just intermediaries. Some of them are just deities we've created. There's a whole pantheon of gods within Buddhism, Hinduism, and other religions. If you want to go to source, then go to source directly. Why do people worship an animal, a rat, a cow, a dog, a sheep, a goat, or any other pantheon of gods in between, when all you're seeking actually is to go to source itself? Then why not go to source itself? What is the purpose of worshipping something in the middle? What is the purpose? Because it isn't a god, it isn't really the divine, so why worship it? So these things about the gods, I have a lot of problems with religion, which as I go through all the scriptures and that I translate, you will see that this message is passed through and through. If you seek the divine, then speak to divine directly. There's assistance given to you by messengers and energetic spirit help that surrounds us all the time, and you can call upon those for guidance. But if you wish to speak directly to that which that you seek. Otherwise, the passage will just meander for longer than you choose to. Okay, on karma, unpredictability, how a mere human is not wise enough to discern the working of karma and the fate of people after death. This is true if you stay within human perception. If you stay within human perception and the ignorance that we're there with, then you will not know anything about karma. You'll actually ignore it, and understanding the nature of existence, which is what they're describing here, is the fate of people after death. Well, it's also the existence, prior to non-existence, and everything in between. But karma is often replaced with human laws, human rules that they create that have no force in reality, have only force in the material realm as you live here. They disappear when you die, they're non-existent before birth. What are these? I'll give you an example. People behave in such ways in offices. They say, well, it's just business. It's okay, this is just how we do business. It's just they think these rules apply, and it deletes the forces of the universal law, which is karma. Karma is a universal law of cause and effect. These laws and rules that humans create are just excuses they give themselves to excuse their behavior to one another. They have absolutely no force, no reality, no energy. They don't cancel anything out. Everything. The divine laws are pervasive, all infinite and eternal, and they will never be cancelled by any human arrogance. So if you're going to understand karma, understand cause and effect exists in every microsecond of reaction, every word, every thought, every intention in life. This is karma. It's cause and effect. Your soul's garment and the colour of your soul, remember, is what you're trying to move into the breath of God. The breath of God is the spirit. Your souls are tainted and tarnished, which is why you're here on this earth in the first place and why you're listening to this channel. So you're trying to move your soul into light. Well, move it into light if that is the case. Don't move it into darkness and further discolorization by following human laws, human excuses, human rules, because they don't exist. Behave as you would with grace in all aspects of life. Okay, on 6 types of people found in the world: the temperate, happy, and content with solitude of the holy life. This is something that you move into as you transcend. Temperance, it's calmness, contentedness, happy. Content with the solitude of your holy life. This is something, like I mentioned before, and I'll repeat, you'll have more of. Solitude is something, as I've mentioned, the passage to grace at the end, the channel at the very end. There's only you can fit in that narrow channel on the right, as scripture talks to it. And you see the grace in the light of God before you, and it's no form, it's a feeling. You understand what grace is. It has no name, has no form, doesn't punish, doesn't have any chosen people, doesn't have any chosen race, doesn't have any chosen form. It's the all of all, not just humans in this planet, this entire cosmos and everything that exists within it. This journey will always be, as I've mentioned before, the stone at the very other side of the river is huge. It's smaller than all of the other ones that you'll step across as you move towards it. And that stone is a stone of solitude. That journey towards grace will always be your own. You will stand on it on your own, and you will face the light before you, and you will pass that journey on in what's known as solitude. Very few people will be able to follow you on that journey. In fact, hardly, if any. You'll follow that spiritual path on your own. This is how it is. Fewer and fewer people will surround you. It doesn't mean you don't have friends or family. They will be less and less involved in your passage, in the life that you've chosen. And that is where the solitude comes in. They're not gone as physical beings. They just can't follow you where you're going. This is the reason of solitude of holy life. This is why you find the Buddha under a tree alone. This is where you find sages and gurus traversing on their own. This is where you'll find Yeshua and his teachings followed by some disciples, but largely going off for many, many days and hours and weeks and months, disappearing to find himself and speak with the divine on his own. All avatars do this, all people of spiritual path do this. Solitude. It's not false solitude, and it's not piety or piousness, self-flagellation. It's not suffering, it's not meant to be suffering. It's a natural passage of spiritual evolution. This will happen, I'll almost guarantee it. So be prepared. If this is not something that you're prepared for, then the journey will be longer. On 6 types of people found in the world, as I mentioned, the temperate happy, content with holy life, but with wrong view and who go on to lower rebirth. The temperate happy contented with solitude who life, but with wrong view go on to lower rebirth. The hateful and greedy with wrong view who go on to lower rebirth. The hateful and greedy with right view who do not go on to lower rebirth. The hateful with wrong speech and wrong view and who go on to lower birth. It repeats itself quite a lot. The hateful with wrong speech and right view who do not go on to lower birth. On how equal virtue and equal wisdom to monks and laypersons leads to equal outcomes after death. So these are very aged philosophies, and I disagree with the fundamental principle under what I've just read. It talks about here, yes, it's talking about actions, words, thoughts and intentions. You either have what's called right view, which is elevated, moving towards grace, wrong view, not elevated, moving towards darker passages, or humanness, materialism, the material, the matter-based confinement and prison. This is the soul's garment, remember. It colours your soul's garment. It doesn't dictate your lower rebirth. As I've mentioned before, this is also written in Hinduism. This is a passage, this is a philosophy in Hinduism which is untrue. You're in a human form and you're not going to go into a dog or a cat or a goat or a mule or a horse or any other animal life. It's not possible. Remember, everything in spiritual rationality and evolution has purpose to it. There's intention and also logic to it. If you moved into human form, it's because you moved into a vessel which is allowing you extended perception, extended thought, extended feeling, extended heart, extended emotion for you to progress forward to your passage towards grace. You will not move into a lower form, reducing that capacity from which you've reached. You can behave, however, like an animal in a body, in a human form, and use none of the capacities that this form is allowing you to progress your soul's passage forward. So in this way, yes, you can be born in a lower rebirth, but that you'll still be in a human body. Your perceptions, your actions, words, thoughts and intention will be dictated by your soul's colour, the colour and the tarnish on your soul. There's many out there in human bodies who have just come out, maybe, who are in there for the purpose of expansion, but they behave like animals. No better than an animal. In fact, we can own pets who have more perception, more love, more grace in an animal than many humans living in a body. But you're not going to be going backwards in terms of physical form. It does not occur because there's no purpose to it. Remember, when you read scripture, read anything, do not read literal. Understand there is purpose and intention to everything that occurs. There is no purpose. There is nothing to be gained by a human regressing into an animal or a dog, because it limits your ability to move your soul's expression forward. You're in a human vessel because it's allowing you to do that. So this is a multi-thousand-year philosophy in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and in other scriptures. It does not happen. So you don't have to believe what I say, but remember, think on what you're seeing, what you're reading, what you're listening to, the teachings you're following. Meditate on them, discern them internally. Do not listen to anything I say. I will give you an interpretation from the passage of this path that I'm on. And that what comes to me, that I ask for each day for the divine to pass on to me, to give me the life force to fulfill my intention on this in this earth plane, and my spiritual intention to where I wish to expand into. Like all of you, I'm the same. Discern what you're reading and be prepared to always modify your position on what you think, what you feel. There is no hardened way, because for us to know the all, well, we're not going to know that in this form. Because to truly understand the all is to merge into it again. And that's when we leave material form, this cosmos itself. So just make sure that when you look at these things, anything that you read in scripture, remember when it was written. Remember the ideas and the philosophies in the mind when it was written. These are thousands and thousands year old scriptures. Many 5,000, 10,000 years old, 2,000, 1,500 years old. Remember when they were written in the philosophy of this time. It doesn't mean they are accurate now, because we have moved on in our understanding of things, our interpretation of things. We're not just blind followers. Don't become a blind follower of any rabbi, priest, guru, priest or pope, anyone. The passage to God is in yourself. And as I mentioned before, the stone at the end of the other side of the river is huge. It is the size of a continent. You'll be on that passage on a walking the path of solitude, as it says here, content with the solitude of the holy life. This is what you will be on. And look at things with discernment and always be flexible to understand that the position that we're on today will always change. Okay, we'll continue. On the 6 losses, the loss of mental faculties, faith, vigor, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom, leading to the loss of virtue. The loss of virtue leading to the loss of concentration. The loss of concentration leading to the loss of true knowledge. The loss of true knowledge leading to the loss of the ability to give up attachments. The loss of the ability to give up attachment leading to the loss of an understanding of enlightenment. A very, very good passage. I don't need to explain this one. It's almost... The reverse is also true, remember? To move to enlightenment, we have to passage through, moving beyond the ego of mind, leading to the loss of virtue signaling, but the installation of action, words, and thoughts, and intention moving through the energy of grace, which is what virtue is. Then you move into concentration, into prayer and meditation, which leading to, what is it? Enlightenment? Well, what is enlightenment? It's the unveiling of knowledge, which is what this is talking about. Achieving knowledge, and through knowledge, understanding the nature of detachment from matter and attachment back into spirit, which is then the overall nature of enlightenment and nibbana, which is what ultimately the release from the cycle of rebirth. The opposite, what he's saying, is also true. If we go backwards on that path, we will end up back into loss and into ego. So it's a very good passage. I like that one. On diligence as the single most important thing to the improvement of a person's circumstances in this life and the next. Yes, this is in the mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Diligence, practice. Practice is always faith. Persistence is faith. It'll always be this way. And prayer, meditation, and speaking to the divine directly. As I've mentioned before, if you wish to go through rabbis, priests, gurus, popes, whatever it might be, along that path, do so, but do not remain a follower and subservient. Move on to the other stones on the river that you're meant to pass through, because at the end, that is the one that's just for you. On the spiritual journey of the monk Sona, who with the encouragement of the Buddha did not forsake the holy life for an easy life with his wealthy family, but made an effort to be even in his effort and mental faculties, which is in faith, vigor, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. So he was progressing into this journey to temperate those and move past them. And persevered, he destroyed ill will, ignorance and greed, and attained enlightenment. So this is talking about a follower of Buddha and who practiced what was in the previous paragraph. On how the enlightened may encounter worldly things by ear, nose, tongue, touch and mind, but not be confused or captured by desire of worldly things. Absolutely. We're always going to be bombarded by what comes through our senses and the physical man, the physical body that we are in. But it's to be tempered, to be understood, but not to be overwhelmed by what is received by our touch, tongue, ear, nose and mind. These things can pull us back into matter. We have to be mindful of all things. This is what mindfulness is about. This is what it is about, being mindful of what comes to you and how you're embracing it, what knowledge and enlightenment you're taking from it, and whether it's moving you towards the position on the right or is it dragging you back into the broad channel and the position on the left. On the mental powers of the Buddha to know the mind and fate of people in his life, past lives and future life. This is psychical energy. This is what this is talking about. Psychical energy is not something demonic. It is something you will have. What is it? Well, it's in other words describing a very, very, very heightened state of intuition and an integration of your soul and your senses into grace. This opens up energetic frequency and paradigms within you. You're able to sense and perceive things beyond the confines and the jail cell of human senses and human embodiment. This is what's called the unveiling of the psychical self. The psychical self is just another word. Psychical, what is it? It's just another word of having perception beyond the limitations of the vibration of our senses in the body. That's all it is. You will have this as you discern and as you move towards grace. You will have heightened intuition, an ability to sense things, to sense others, to sense yourself, to sense circumstances, passages. Knowing what's coming without understanding how it's coming just comes to you. A feeling, what is that? It's a psychical sense. This is what everyone will pass through. Many in the New Age wallow in this area or pretend to wallow in this area and never move on. And they create paradigms and philosophies to match this world of what I call the loss of the New Age. There's much truth in New Age, but there's a tremendous amount of loss in it as well, and virtue. It's almost an own industry all by itself now. You have to pass through that. You will pass through it because many of the philosophies are true, but not all. But move through it, take what you need and move on. Remember ask grace to guide your hand. Walk in his golden light and it will guide your hand through everything you need to go through. What one needs and what I need, what you need is different, but we'll all pass through that passage if we allow grace to take a hand and walk us through. Okay, on 6 things that a monk must destroy in order to be considered worthy. Stupidity. Well, that's a little harsh, but I would say, what is stupidity? I'll give you my definition of stupidity. Each body has a mind. There's a mind in everyone's skull. There's a grey matter with synapses triggering an ability to process and think. The intellect and intelligence comes from this. We choose to use our minds or we choose not to use our minds. It's the nature of ignorance. We can choose to be moving into what's called stupidity. This is just ignorance. This is the choice not to use mind, not to use common sense. Common sense is the basis of all intelligence. We were born with the grace of common sense, but how many don't use it anymore or seem to have lost it? And this is the nature of ignorance. This is the nature of making choices which are seen by many or others as being, why is someone doing that? It's very stupid. It's because they've chosen to remain in a state of ignorance, complete blind ignorance, and not use the faculties of mind. Mind will evolve as your soul evolves. They're not separate. They're together. The soul, the heart, and the mind evolve together. They merge together in a trinity, a beautiful divine trinity. If you become ignorant, those will not move forward and you'll remain in what's known as a stupor of mental rigidness, and you'll be in a mud, not moving forward, almost acting dumbed down, which is what is happening in much of the world. This is the nature of stupidity. But it's a choice. People make that choice for themselves. They're not born stupid. No one is born stupid. No one is born mindless. It is the choices they make. Remember, your soul's tarnished garment is what you will wear when you come into incarnated life. If you've been a certain way prior, this is how you will start. It's up to you. You will be given all the faculties, all the tools, the graces before you. If you ask it to lead you through that, which you need to move from the soul's from the soul's tainted garment. Many people don't, they just continue on the way they've always done, recursive over and over and over and over again. This is a fool's choice, but it's free will in other words. Languor, this is laziness, lack of focus, doubts, lack of faith and carelessness. That's what a monk must destroy. A monk, when it says talk about a monk here, remember this is talking about anyone on a spiritual path. The monk is just someone who's dedicated their life to a spiritual journey, be that religious, be that spiritual, be that agnostic, it doesn't really matter. A monk is anyone. It can be defined as anyone who's taking a spiritual path. So when we read the word monk or in these old passages, just remember it means spirit, someone who's chosen to move themselves towards grace in the spiritual passage. On 6 things that result in a monk succeeding in the holy life. Respect for Buddha, I will say respect for anything that you on your journey pass through. It could be every faith on this earth, it could be one, it could be none. Whatever it is that you choose to pass through, whatever knowledge that you need, remember your petals on the lotus flower are different to the petals on my lotus flower, on your friend's lotus flower, your mother, your father, your friend, your wife, your daughter, your husband, your partner, whoever it is, their petals are different to yours, and the number of those petals are also different to yours. Respect what you wish to go through. It could be Buddhism, could be Hinduism, could be Christianity, could be Catholicism, could be anything, or could be none of those. Respect all of them and also the choices others make, because it's their own, and unveil your own petals to show the golden center, which is grace's light. The Buddha's teachings, the Buddhist community, the monks' training, calmness and friendship with those well established in the holy life. I would say those well established in the holy life would mean your friends are going to change as you move forward in your life. Solitude isn't solitude, it means that your friends will change, your companionships will change, you'll draw others to you, but what the number of people you need around you will diminish. You'll spend much time on your own in reflection and silence, but you won't ever be alone. You'll never actually feel alone. You'll allow grace in, spirit that surrounds you in. There is no loneliness. There is only loneliness in humanity because humans are attached to physical form, and if they don't have other human physical bodies around them, they feel lonely. The resolution of loneliness is the integration of grace and spirit within. 6 things that conduce to a monk's liberation is to relinquish ignorance of what conduces to the persistence of existence. What that means is understanding the persistence of existence is the cycle back into rebirth, which is the attachment to matter and material and humanity and the world and so on and so forth, is to relinquish the ignorance of that. To understanding, to wisdom, lack of zeal and lack of cooperation. On 6 things that contribute to the happiness of a monk. Taking pleasure in the Buddha's teachings, or any teachings that you choose to pass through. Taking pleasure in making progress in the holy life or your spiritual journey. Taking pleasure in destroying passion and cravings. This is for material things, remember. Sexual desire, cravings for this, that, or the other, whatever it might be, is having temperance and calmness and moving beyond material attachments and energetic movement to them. Taking pleasure in solitary meditation, there'll be a lot of that. I found of late, actually, that the world is, sometimes you experience things, and I go through these just like anyone else, where it seems that life is sucking your life, the humanity and just existence here sucks the life force from you. It does from time to time. Remember, we're not perfect. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to be evolving. In our soul's garment, remember, cleanse our soul's garment so it mirrors that which the Spirit gave us in the first instance. And sometimes I spend a lot of time in meditation, a lot of times in calmness, sometimes even in cathedrals where I feel the energy of grace in there. I'm not a Christian. I'm not in any denomination. I was born a Hindu, but I'm not a Hindu. I understand all the teachings of them. I understand what they need, what I take from Christianity, take from Hinduism, Buddhism, and that's why I do all of these scriptures. I run through them. But I spend a lot of time in silence, in meditation, in prayer, to build my life force, to repair what I feel a lot sometimes, being in human existence, being on this life, this being in this world, can suck out the life force from you. And it's to heal that life force and take time to do that, to heal yourself through silence and spiritual energy emerging from within to without. And this is what I do a lot, and it will mean that you'll be in solitary meditation, solitary calmness, solitary peace, and in prayer, maybe more than, in some cases, in some weeks, some months, more than you would possibly know, in others less. But this is it's an important factor. Taking pleasure in destroying ill will and awareness, achievements, drops, develops clear sight. This is enlightenment, which is unveiling of knowledge. That's what it is. Use of insight is able to live with great energy, keeps the goal of the holy life. This is very difficult to keep the goal, but persistence is faith. And as I mentioned, taking time to be silent and calm, meditate and prayer. When you feel that you need it, not just in the times of the day that you schedule and you pick each day for it, but any time you feel life force draining, or you feel that heaviness, do that, because it will fill you back up. I did that very thing today. On 6 obstacles to right view is identity, which is the self. Remember, it's the human vessel. View of that, your attachment to it, compulsion to ignore the rules. I'm not sure what they mean by rules here. There are a lot of rules in scripture. If you read some of the Buddhist texts, that I've not transcribed everything that's in this book. I'm not here to do that. But there are so many rules about how you must do this, how you must do that, how you must be here, be that. It's a lot of piety and piousness and self-inflicted suffering in some cases. Again, this is the tradition of the time. The real passage to grace is not for suffering or self-flagellation or whipping yourself with nails or gross piety or repulsiveness meditation and so forth. It is to understand true divine knowledge, which is how you will enlighten, which is how you will move to grace closer and closer. It doesn't require you to stop eating or living in a cave or going around with rags around you. So, okay, thoughts of greed, yes, of course. Obstacles, thoughts of ill will and ignorance. On 6 impossible things, coming to right view, which is effectively, coming to right view means moving into spiritual passage towards that which grace brings to you. This is what correct. It doesn't mean that everything else everyone else feels is wrong. And then returning to the view that good and bad fortune are self-authored. Authored by another, or authored by the self and another. Good and bad fortune are the result of chance, independent of actions of the self or others. I would say we do bring what comes to us through our own actions, words, thoughts and intentions and vibration that we feel of ourselves, but our lives are not predetermined in every single manner. Remember that. Otherwise, what would be the point of free will? As I mentioned before, there is logic to existence, and there's purpose and intention to the divine laws of grace itself. You can walk down the street and be full of grace, and normally that would mean that you'd walk down unimposed. But we can be affected by the choices of others. In a fleeting state of free will, they can make a fleeting choice would also impact our lives. So we can be impacted by the nature of others. In the complex intersections of life, it's 1,000 rubber bands wrapped around a small ball. We are impacted, and so everything is happening as it's meant to, because that is the nature of the experience. But other people's free will can also overlap into our own passage by the nature and choices that they make, as well as the nature and choices that we make. So there is an entwinement of all of us and the free will choices of all of us within our good and bad fortune in some words. But ultimately it does sit with us. And we are responsible for the choices that we make and that we don't get diverted from the passage that we're on. Remain on the golden path and grace will put everything before you. Sometimes it doesn't always feel that way, but it does. On developing contentedness, awareness and limited desire in order to eliminate discontentedness. On awareness and wide-ranging desires. On developing pure pacification to eliminate excitedness. Well, I don't think so. First of all, be passionate about what you're doing. Be passionate about the spiritual journey that you are on, and do not be passive to the point of helplessness and docileness. You're in a body here to change the world and change yourself and help others. This requires action. You're not here just to sit and view things around you crumbling when you can actually help in some way, even if it means guiding people to a greater force and understanding in their lives, which is what I do. You're here to act. Act in whatever way suits you, but act. Pacification means sitting idly around while the world gets destroyed, while others' lives are impacted by corruption and greed and perversion of all manner. We're not here just to allow it. What's the purpose of spiritual enlightenment and force of God within you if you're not going to do something of some kind in whatever suits your nature to do so? With the guidance and discernment and wisdom around it. Developing control to eliminate unrestrainedness and cultivating diligence to eliminate carelessness. Okay, thank you so much for listening to that. I know it went a little bit, it was a few slides, but we went on for almost 40 minutes. Remember, the second coming is you. We are going to continue with the rest of them now today. There's another 3 coming, but as I've always said, and my principles and philosophy is thus: if one is going to embark on a spiritual journey, remember that that end stone, which is the size of infinite, is an infinite size, an eternal size that you need it to be, will always be your coming. The Christos, the Christ, the Krishna, the Buddhic, and anything, and the divine will come through yourself. The church is your own church, the one that you stand in within yourself. This is what's the second coming, and it's transformative. There has to be a change in your life if you're going to be real. If you're on the spiritual journey, it has to be transformative within you. Otherwise, it's just virtue signaling. It's just an activity that when you wish to be seen as divine or virtuous or holy, then you just give that impression. And once you walk out of the doors of your temple, your church, your synagogue, whatever it might be, you behave just like every other human. There's no purpose or anything to be gained by that. In fact, there'll be stagnation. And that's what will come. So make it transformative, change your actions, words, thoughts and intentions as such. Okay, I want to put this back on the screen. Thank you very much for listening to this. I appreciate it, all your time. It's a grace for me, for those who dip in and out. Please pass on your comments. If you disagree with everything I say, it's fine. Pass on those too. Share this with those who benefit from it, if you feel others will. And share your comments regardless, because I do like to hear from you, and particularly if it benefits you and it's helping you in some way, because that is the purpose of this, as well as I do this for my own passage, my own intention, and my own evolution and unveiling of my petals on my lotus flower, so that I can see the golden center of grace in the middle. Okay, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all of you, and God bless to you all.